All right, we are back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Carter's out today. I am rolling solo today, but we're going to get the show started today. And first and foremost, today is September 11th, um, one of the worst days in American history. And a lot of people um, lost their lives on this day, and it's a day of remembrance. And a lot of people know where they were on this day, and so do I. I was a young kid, and just want to pay homage to those people. And it was a rough day in America some years ago. So, with that being said, we got football to cover today, and I hadn't been on the show. I was out Monday. Um, let's get let's unpack the um, Northern Illinois loss. I know Carter had his thoughts and opinions on Northern Illinois and going forward with Marcus Freeman. Um, I think this is a huge time for the University of Notre Dame. Um, this is another big catastrophic failure on Marcus's part. We've been here before. Um, you know, another small school comes into the University of Notre Dame and gets a win. With that being said, I believe Jeremiah Love. I have not totally watched the game back through yet. Probably get that done, you know, this week sometime. Um, is Northern Illinois a playoff team? That's something you got to put on record, because the group of five is going to get one team in. I previously had said that it was going to be the University of Memphis. Northern Illinois has the best win so far in this young season. I know Memphis has Florida State coming to town, and I know we're trying to move forward on to Purdue, but the Northern Illinois is a terrible loss. There's no way to get around it. There's no way to navigate it, really. Riley Leonard, 20 of 32 for 163 yards. You're paying that guy over $1 million. Jeremiah Love, for some reason, did not get any touches in the second half. We've got, you know, just going down the stat line, Bo Collins, five receptions for 45 yards. You know, various other programs rolling around the country, they're getting production, they're getting um, stuff outside of the wide receiver position. It didn't look like, to me, watching it in real time, that we had guys getting open um, on the perimeter. It is not. It is not looking good in Notre Dame land. You've got the Antonio Brown, close to or over 200 yards of all-purpose on the Notre Dame defense. It was supposed to be the vaunted Notre Dame defense. I, for one, did not think that they would be giving up uh, that many yards going forward. Northern Illinois' quarterback completed 10 passes and still put up 16 points. But with that being said, I still do think it's not a complete. I mean, it is a complete failure. But if you're the guy sitting in the defensive meeting room, you only gave up 16 points. On offense, you got to do something. You got to make something happen. Um, do I think they'll do a full sale quarterback change? That I don't know. Um, I think if you wanted to make the change at quarterback, um, it's going to come down to it better be the right move if you're going to do that. I could see if you know Riley Leonard comes out in the first half against Purdue, and he also doesn't have a touchdown pass. Texas A&M was tough. Notre Dame hasn't put up over 20 points, no passing touchdowns. I also seen when Riley got sacked, um, he came up holding his left non-throwing shoulder, and something to me tells me that I don't know if he's 100% healthy, because if you watch the Here Come the Irish in the springtime, he was rolling around with one of those carts, um, and had some setbacks in the offseason. Me and Carter had talked about it previously on the show. How big is it missing spring practice? Some people told us, oh, you're overreacting. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, obviously, something is going wrong. Something is amiss on the offensive side of the ball. They're not pushing the ball down the field. And when they did, he threw picks. So I for one, I'm not buying it. Something around the offensive side of the ball stinks. Um, I don't know where you go, because I believe if you make a quarterback change, it's got to be permanent and it's got to be for the rest of the year. Is Steve Angeli the guy? Is it going to be a mix of Angeli and Minchie? I don't think CJ Carr is going to play, because I would assume he's going to be he's the scout team guy. I would think, being behind Minchie and Angeli. Marcus Freeman has a big decision to make on this situation, because this situation, if you don't get the quarterback position right in college football, at the University of Notre Dame, it could be the end of the tenure for Marcus at this point. Do they need to get more guys involved? Absolutely. But defensively, they just had times that they looked really, really bad. And it's hard to make excuses for that. I watched the press conference, and I don't know how much Marcus is throwing in his input on the offensive side of the ball. That's something I would like to know. Nobody asked him at the press conference. I think they asked terrible questions, but what are you going to do? They're credentialed, and they got to hang on to that credential. And I understand that part of it, but when the rubber meets the road here, we talked all spring about the offensive line having issues, lack of depth, lack of starts up front, and I think that's why Riley took a couple sacks. I don't think they were 100% on him necessarily, but we'll see, and we'll change gears here a little bit, and we got a big matchup coming up for University of Alabama. Alabama is going on the road to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, that's going to be Kalen DeBoer's, I think, real big test early to see where his program is at, to see where the guys are at down there. I think Wisconsin and Coach Fickle are going to have their hands full, trying to stop Jalen Milroe. I think a lot of Alabama fans coming off that South Florida game were highly, highly irritated, highly upset that the team got off to a sluggish start. But, Alabama got the win. That's just something that, Alabama is done under DeBoer. I mean, Wisconsin, a Big Ten opponent, that'll definitely be able to be a pretty good measuring stick before they get hot and heavy into SEC play, because I know they got Georgia coming up, and that is something to look forward to if you're an Alabama fan. But you got to, same thing with Notre Dame. You got to win. You got to win the next game. You can't look past opponents. I think that's something in South Bend that they're, evaluating, and everything is being evaluated is the way Marcus made it sound. But um, another interesting game on the slate up for this weekend: LSU, South Carolina. The Gamecocks. LSU's a 7-point favorite. SEC play. We're gonna find out how good South Carolina is playing LSU. I think I like the Gamecocks in that one. Going into it, I think they played really good defense, and Shane Beamer's got the guys rolling. This could be a telling game for Brian Kelly to see if he can right the ship and get everything flipped around there for uh, for the Tigers. It's a big it's a big test early in the season, and then we switch gears a little bit, and then you go to Michigan. Or has Arkansas State at home? Can Michigan get it figured out? Is the season a complete loss? They're big favorites, but if the Maize and Blue don't put up big numbers, it could be curtains. I know Sharon signed his contract today. For some reason, it took him all the fall camp, all the spring ball, and everything to get that finalized. And then another game that is a pretty big interest to me is I think we're going to find out how good Boston College is. They are going on the road to Missouri. Missouri's big favorites. We'll be able to figure out if Missouri is for real in that matchup. And then another 3:30 game. You got the Civil War Oregon State. In rivalry games, a lot of times you can take the records and throw them out. And on that end of it, I think Oregon State I think they're a little bitter. They're still in the Pac-2. Could be a good win for them if they go out there and play well. And then you have the Tulane Green Wave taking on Oklahoma. The vaunted Sooners, big favorites there. If you watched any of Kansas State, Tulane had a pretty good grasp on that game going into the fourth quarter, and they just didn't have the weapons to get it done on offense. So we'll see if the Fighting Summeralls can get a win there. And then you have another SEC matchup in Georgia taking on Kentucky. We're going to find out everything we need to know about Kentucky when they play Georgia. It's a huge SEC matchup. Georgia's got to go on the road. Kirby Smart's got the guys rolling. I don't think that it's a for sure win. Nothing's for sure after Notre Dame NIU. So with that being said, we'll pivot back to Oregon State. Dylan Gabriel's put up some pretty decent numbers. Put up almost 650 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I'm just hoping the Ducks are not looking past the proverbial little brother here. And it is Oregon's got to go on the road, got to go down to Corvallis, and history tells me that anytime you're a ranked team and you're going on the road to Corvallis, ask USC and Pete Carroll about that. It is probably not going to be an easy environment to play. Oregon's big favorites. A lot of people bet that line up. Me personally, I'm staying away from that. I'm going to watch it, but I'd flip back between that and the Notre Dame game, and also on Friday night, Kansas State is playing Arizona, which I think that's going to be a made-for-TV matchup on Friday night. Kansas State goes home after that trip to Tulane, and Arizona can air it out. They put up big numbers this season. Uh, Fila, he's almost got 600 yards passing. I think the big thing for him is don't turn the ball over, and you got a puncher's chance in this game. So you got Kansas State. They're only 7-point favorites. So I think this is going to be a hell of a matchup for a Friday night. I do think Kansas State wins it, but do not count out the Wildcats. And we will dive into the Notre Dame stuff. As far as the recruiting update, everything's still fairly quiet on the Deuce Knight front. I haven't seen anything yay or nay on that. He did go to Auburn and watch him lose, so don't know how much that's going to help Marcus Freeman in the Notre Dame cause with laying a big old stinker versus Northern Illinois at home. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I don't think this Purdue game is going to be high scoring. The Card Kid, they played Purdue, opened up with Indiana State, an FCS opponent. It's really hard to get a read on what they are trying to do. I think Graham Harrell, the Purdue offensive coordinator, is going to be pulling out all the stops on this game. This is a critical time in Ryan Walters' coaching tenure as well. I think that they are trying to change some things around. Brom took him to a Big Ten title game. So I believe that, Purdue is looking for their signature win here. And I just hope Notre Dame can, and going down to West Lafayette is not a fun task. People have struggled with that. History says Purdue's beat, I think, more top 2 ranked opponents than anybody in the country the last 5 years. So going to West Lafayette is not a easy task by any means. And I would think after last week, as far as overlooking opponents, that is done, and taking everyone seriously. I think Purdue's going to look to run the ball a lot. I don't think they're going to air it out much. I think, they got, I believe it's 106 combined starts on their offensive line coming into this year, if my math is correct. I think Purdue's going to be a very physical team. On the offensive side of the ball, I think they're going to look to establish the run early. And the big question is, can Notre Dame stop it? And this is just, a little early look into it. It is Wednesday. So Notre Dame's going to need production outside of Bo Collins. Somebody else has got to step up to the plate, whether it's Mitchell, whether it's Greathouse. Somebody has got to step up and start making plays. And when Notre Dame does go to throw it, they've got to get Jeremiah Love involved more. If you're not going to air it out, you got to establish the run early if you're Notre Dame. And like I said on last week's pregame show, you have got to play clean, keep the penalties at a minimum, and play good special teams. You cannot allow a team like Purdue to hop in and hang in there like NIU did. You let them hang around, and you cannot turn the ball over if you're Riley Leonard. And the offense has got to start quick this week and take advantage of opportunities. They have got to establish the run. Whether I don't know if Denbrock's going to be rolling out a whole bunch of new RPOs or if there's going to be new wrinkles in the offense. I would think so after last week's performance. You got stymied by a MAC school, and Purdue returns 8 starters on offense and I believe 6 starters on defense. So they're by looking at the roster, they've got guys that have played a lot of college football. And the big thing too is how healthy is Riley Leonard? All spring they said, he just, had a little bit of a setback. Everything was good. To me, he didn't look hobbled, but he didn't look great either. The 2 interceptions, turning the football over, you can't do it. It's unacceptable at this point. And whether Purdue possesses the football for a long time, which I think they will, I think they're going to try to play keep away so Notre Dame cannot allow the playmakers on the outside to wreak havoc in this game. That is something that I think Mike Denbrock needs to do is, unleash the Kraken, see what you got under the hood. And if the offense starts slow, I would not be shocked at all if Marcus Freeman decides that he is going to make a change at some point with the quarterback. Whether they establish the run, and you bring in Angeli, and you do a lot of quick game and a lot of vanilla concepts. It's something that Notre Dame's got to clean up. They've got to establish an identity on the offensive side of the ball. And for the most part, I believe it's running the football like it's always been under Marcus Freeman. And, some people in the Notre Dame space are calling it trestle ball, but you can't tell me that you bring in all these wide receivers and you fire Stuckey at a critical time and you have no production. If you look at Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith, he's got more yards in touchdowns than all of Notre Dame's receivers. So, using Ohio State as one example, there's 112 quarterbacks who've thrown touchdowns in Division I college football this year. Riley Leonard is not one of them. That is concerning when you're not scoring touchdowns. No touchdowns through the air through 2 games. That's totally unacceptable. You're paying a offensive coordinator $2.2 million to coordinate this offense, and to me, it's a lack of production. You're not running the ball. You're not throwing the ball great. So I don't know if a quarterback change is going to be in the cards this weekend if they come out and start slow. If that is the case, you better be right. You better have a handle on this. It's to the point to where it's in the Marcus Freeman era. It's year 3. It's the do or die year. I would say you cannot waste these opportunities. You got to win the games you're supposed to. Getting the signature win, as you would call it, at Texas A&M. At this point, the Texas A&M game looks small in my estimation. You went on the road and you beat a middle of the road SEC team, and then you turn around and you drop the ball and against Northern Illinois. I mean, the MAC had a great weekend. Bowling Green took Penn State down to the wire. So, and for all the people out there discounting the MAC schools, you kind of can't anymore in this landscape of college football, the transfer portal era. You can't really do that because some of these big school guys are sliding into these smaller MAC schools and playing right away. And evident with NIU and with Bowling Green, it's completely Notre Dame's got their pieces that they have to the puzzle, and it's seemingly looking round hole square peg at this point. So I just I would like to see more aggressive passing concepts out of the offense. Um, it I'll probably get my hands on the 22 film and be able to watch that probably tomorrow and give a more uh, in-depth look into it. But I thought the offensive line struggled. I thought the defensive line got pushed around from the TV copy. I believe offensively they got pushed around. They didn't really move anybody. There wasn't they didn't have a great day running the football, and they didn't have a great day throwing the football. And you're doing that at home. You got to be able to do things in your building uh, better than what they're doing, and so I believe that going to Purdue is not going to be an easy task. Some people are thinking that Notre Dame's going to roll them by 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. Well, how about we score consistent touchdowns? How about we have a passing touchdown? Let's start there uh, before you're writing off Purdue and saying it's over before it starts. As soon as the foot hits the 4 panel and 8 laces, we're going to find out whether Marcus can get him to bounce back or not. Because I do recall after they lost to Marshall at home, I believe Cal came in there and gave him a whopper of a game too. So maybe in on the Purdue side of it, Ryan Walters probably doesn't want to be at Purdue for a lifetime. He probably wants to go get a better job, and no better way to do that than to put a home win against Notre Dame, a ranked opponent, on your coaching resume. And I know Carter was a little heated about after the Northern Illinois game about making a coaching change. Uh, I don't think he's off base at all, because this is year 3. Year 3 at Notre Dame is boom or bust, and we are riding the bus train right now. The hype train, I believe, is parked at the station and waiting to see if you can take it out of the garage again. But I believe Notre Dame trying to get to the college football playoff is going to be a tough road. The fact that the schedule is not really favorable for them. Florida State, who knows what they're going to be, and USC going to their place. USC is going to be ready for this game. They know what happened last year in South Bend. So if you think you're going to waltz in and run through the schedule, this is getting a dose of reality here for Notre Dame. After at Purdue, they come back home, Miami of Ohio, and then they have Louisville coming to town, and Louisville's got a kid that can spin the ball. This was one of the things I said over the summer. Louisville, I don't like that game. I think they could play it in a parking lot at the Greyhound station in South Bend, and I think Louisville's going to be ready to play. And then you have Stanford, which I hate to say it, but you never know. Stanford played well against TCU. I mean, TCU might not be very good, but Stanford still put up some points, put up more points than Notre Dame did against TCU. And then you got Georgia Tech, and if you don't figure out the run defense, that could be a very long day for the University of Notre Dame. And then you go Navy, I believe is a neutral site game, Florida State, Virginia, Army, USC. So there's limited opportunities there to get this ship back on track. I'm not buying the playoff thing. ESPN and all the pundits out there had a lot of, can Notre Dame make the playoffs? Well, if they play close games and they went out the rest of the year, maybe. But who's to say that you wouldn't put a 3-loss LSU in the playoffs over a Notre Dame? I don't think that's an unfair question. One of the weaker teams on your schedule outside of the service academies, you took an L. Not only did you take an L, you took the L at home. And that's just not the University of Notre Dame. I think, you could, if 5 years ago, if I told you that Notre Dame would have a home loss against Marshall and a home loss against Northern Illinois, some people would look at you like you have three heads. And I don't think the heat and the criticism that Marcus Freeman is catching over this, you kind of got to pass on the Marshall loss because it was year one. We're year three now. It's unacceptable. And, a lot of people out there are clamoring that, talking about he got him so hyped up for Texas A&M. Well, you had an emotional high off of that because a lot of people were taking Texas A&M. A lot of people bet Texas A&M, and they didn't think Notre Dame had a chance, and they showed up and kind of won a close one. In my eyes, I think that game was closer than some people thought. But if they go out there and they play a competent offense, who knows what this is? Maybe Caleb Williams is that bad, or maybe it's not translating because something is amiss. And when you say you're going to reevaluate the game preparation, it to me, I don't think there's anything that's not on the table for evaluation here when it comes to getting the team back on track. And if Marcus makes a choice to go with Angeli, you have to respect the decision, because if you're not getting any production out of the quarterback position, it's not sustainable. You're not going to win many games. If you keep on trending towards the iceberg, you got to make a change. You have to do something. And we're about halfway through the show here, and everybody watching, if you could hit the like and subscribe button, help us grow the show here. We're going live about 3 days a week. We're going Monday, Wednesday, and we're doing a pregame show about 1:45 on Saturdays as well. More preview of the Notre Dame game. The Saturday show, if you're a Notre Dame fan out there watching, that we go live right before the kickoff, just to give people a little perspective, a little snippet into the Notre Dame stuff, a little pregame while the noon games are at halftime, trying to lighten the mood a little bit. But and I harken back to last week, Northern Illinois. They had 16 to 22 returning. Purdue's got 14 to 22 returning. So, and this was a game at the beginning of the year that I talked about a little bit at length. I had somebody say, "Can you name one player on Purdue's roster?" And I said, "It's going to West Lafayette. You're going to get on a bus. It's not like a normal routine. You're playing a road game. It's going to be it shouldn't be a hostile environment. I would think there should be a ton of Notre Dame fans there, just giving how close the proximity is. But, this is the game that means more to Purdue than it does Notre Dame. A lot of times Notre Dame has a huge lead in the series, but, with last week, I don't think there's nothing that's not on the table at this point. And I dive into the situation that is the Riley Leonard thing. How does this affect future quarterbacks in the portal? Marcus has definitely got to develop that quarterback room. I don't think anybody had Riley Leonard struggling on their bingo card. It's just one of those things that you have to navigate through. And I I try not to advocate for coaches getting fired, but the trends got to change at some point because you can't be losing the Sun Belt in MAC schools at the University of Notre Dame. It's just not sustainable. It's not conducive for recruiting. It's not conducive for job security, and it's one of those. It seems like every year Marcus Freeman is having a big blunder in the coaching realm. uh, last year you had 10 guys on the field against Ohio State, not for just one play, but for two plays. And, clock management hasn't been a huge issue, but you didn't have any timeouts to call timeout. That's one of the problems. And I get it, Marcus is a first-time head coach, but you're getting paid a lot of money to be able to manage these situations. And having a team prepared and focused is part of your job. And I get it. He's a Jim Tressel. He played for Jim Tressel at Ohio State. Um, I don't I don't think that, Marcus is beyond criticism. Um, I see the message board stuff and picking up the phone and trying to find a guy's replacement before a guy's fired is it's just not reasonable, and the names getting tossed around. It seems like anytime the Notre Dame job comes open, Urban Meyer is the top guy on the list. Do I think realistically Urban Meyer would take the Notre Dame job? I say no. Do I think he'll at least pick up the phone and listen to him? Maybe, but they would have to make a change with Marcus. Do I think they'll make a change with Marcus? If the season falls off the rails and they go 6-6 or 5-7, that would be the time that they would probably at least think about making a change, because it's not working. For the last 4 years, the quarterback situation at the University of Notre Dame has been very inconsistent. Um, I just I'm at a loss, really. Marcus has got to get this figured out, and a lot of people have kind of gave me some heat on, why do you blame Marcus? Why do you keep blaming Marcus? Because it starts at the top when it comes to this. It starts with the head coach and it filters down. And I don't believe Marcus is calling the defense. Al Golden's doing that, and Denbrock is calling the offense. It is the head coach's job to coach the team, be in the CEO role throughout, throughout the week, and being able to help fix some of the problems as a head coach, opposed to being, like Ohio State or even Ole Miss, where Lane calls the plays. He's not in the defensive meeting rooms. He might be, but when you got to do your own game planning and, your preparation for the game, it changes things. And you'll see a big change with that, as far as like with Ohio State and the way Ryan Day has been operating. You got Chip Kelly and you have Jim Knowles. While Marcus Freeman has got Al Golden and Mike Denbrock, which I think are combined making, $5 million a piece. And you're losing games. You're losing home games to Northern Illinois. And a lot of people want to bag on Parker. They want to bag on Tommy Rees. But you can change the coordinator, but the results really haven't changed that much as far as big games and putting up points. The formula's pretty much been the same. What's Notre Dame been the last couple of years? Running the ball really well because they have no wide receivers. You made the change with Stuckey. Whether you agree with it or not, Mike Brown got put in a crap situation for the most part because he was behind. He's still, I feel like, on the 25 class, I don't know where he can go from there, but it's rinse and repeat, really. Under Marcus, it's let's go get all our skill players out of the portal. Let's go get a quarterback out of the portal. And the big thing for me is if Riley Leonard is done and you pull him, does he sit the rest of the year and transfer out and keep his eligibility and be injured? I don't know. That's something I don't think that's not off the table, because if at that point, if you make the move for Angeli, can he win the job back? But to a certain degree, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. And I get it, Urban Meyer did the Tim Tebow, Chris Leak thing, but Tebow was basically a running back that threw a couple of passes. This is not that situation. Angeli doesn't have the mobility that Riley brings to the table. And like I said, after the Texas A&M game, running the quarterback 10 to 15 times a game is not a formula, and it's not sustainable for the way that kid is built. He's like 215. You look at Ohio State with Will Howard. Will Howard's all of 6'4", 240 pounds. He's got 15, 20 pounds, and that makes a difference if you're going to run the quarterback. I mean, well, it's yet to be seen with Ohio State. They have a bye week, but when they play Oregon or, Michigan or some of the other teams that got some big dudes on the other side of the ball, watch how many times they run their quarterback. I bet it's not going to be 10 or 15 times. And, Marcus said in the Here Come the Irish show, oh, let me go get the top offensive coordinator. Well, you can go get the top offensive coordinator, but one of the things that I've stood on is the offensive coordinator does not run the ball, he doesn't throw the ball, he doesn't catch the ball. That's the big difference here. And he has no Jaden Daniels. Riley Leonard's not Jaden Daniels by any stretch of the imagination. So with that being said, I just think Riley's got to get it together on the offensive side of the ball. And maybe another week of practice, and maybe they'll come out and they'll put up 40 points. I'm hoping, but you can't rely on running the quarterback, and you have to be able to push the ball vertically. That's all they talked about in the offseason. How is a guy putting up 160 yards passing win the Manning Passing Academy? That was something we got receded to death on as well. He won the Manning Passing Academy. That's great. Lost to Northern Illinois. What is that really doing for you? And also there's a couple of stats from the Northern Illinois game, and it was like that with the Texas A&M game. Notre Dame is horrendous on third down because they're behind the sticks consistently. They are behind the sticks. And they weren't penalized much. I think they had 3 penalties for 35 yards. And another concerning thing is that Notre Dame averaged 4.4 yards rushing the ball. Not a bad stat line. Almost averaging 5 yards per play when you're handed the rock off. But the bigger issue is your average pass play was 4.9 yards per play. You're not throwing the ball down the field. They're loading the box and they're taking the run away. And they are daring you to throw the ball. And don't think for not 1 minute that Ryan Walters isn't going to be watching the crap out of this tape and watching what Texas A&M did and what Northern Illinois did. Because for the most part, Texas A&M, missed a couple of run fits, and that's what gave up their big plays. And, if I'm Ryan Walters, I'm sitting there thinking if we clean up a certain amount of things, we might be able to hold them off the scoreboard. And the weather is going to be good at Purdue. It's supposed to be 80. I just think that they were 3 of 10 on third down against Northern Illinois. And you gotta be able to pick up first downs. No first downs is not not conducive for winning games. And you go back to Texas A&M, they held Connor Wagman to 12 of 30 for 100 yards. But if you look at Riley Leonard's stat line, his average pass play, 5.3 yards per play. He completes the short intermediate, but it's not conducive for stretching the field and coming up with big chunk plays. Notre Dame was 2 of 12 on third down, and 11 penalties for 99 yards. It's lucky they won that game. Some people will say, yeah, they beat them by 10, but to me, that game reads a lot closer. They don't pick up that fourth down. That's a totally different result going into that game. The third down efficiency is something that needs to be looked at. You got to be able to get it done in crunch time. And we'll skip over a little bit. If you look at the stat line for Miami of Ohio, the Gilbert kid, that's Miami of Ohio's quarterback, he's averaging 6.1 yards per pass play. So how is somebody at Miami of Ohio, and side note, they only lost to Northwestern by a touchdown. So Northwestern was favored by like 10 or so points. So this is getting to the red alert time, in my opinion, because if the offense doesn't come out and put up over 25 points, it's going to be a long year for Notre Dame fans. And you can call me negative and say I'm the big meanie and say I don't know what I'm talking about, but 2 of 12 and like 3 of 17 for third down efficiency. You mean to tell me in two games you've only converted on third down a total of 5 times and once on fourth down? And this guy's making $2 million a year? You can say that I'm cherry picking stats. I'm not. And to boot, you had 2 turnovers. Northern Illinois beat you in time of possession. Northern Illinois' average pass play, 9.9 yards per play. It's just, if this is what the reality is going to be, it's going to be a long year, and the Marcus Freeman tenure is going to be over before you know it. I'm not trying to be ultra negative here, but at some point, it's like the University of Florida. University of Notre Dame's got to look in the mirror and say, hey, we have major issues on the offensive side of the ball. Could they come out and score 40? Hopefully. But at this point, they are giving me nothing that says they're going to score even 25 points. You don't have a passing touchdown, and you're paying your quarterback $1.2 million. 2 picks, 3 of 10 on third down. So in 3 of 10, it's almost laughable at this point. And I heard all offseason how Denbrock was going to change the narrative from how bad Parker was. So you're 5 of 23 on third down. If I'm Purdue, stop the run and roll the dice on third down. I don't know. I don't know what other stat is more telling than that. And Purdue's only played 1 game, so they've been off. So you're going to have pretty much a fully charged, ready to go Purdue team after you just laid an egg at home, and now you got to get on a motor coach and ride down to West Lafayette, which really is not that great, and go play the vaunted Boilermakers because they're vaunted at this point. To me, you've only converted five third downs and once on fourth down, and the people out here watching this, if you can hit the like and subscribe button and help us grow the show. I believe we're going to do a show tomorrow as well. I believe at 7:30. I believe Carter's going to be able to hop on tomorrow, and we'll be able to talk more in depth. I'm just up here rambling and going, but it's just this is the reality of where the program is at. You can say that it's trending in the right direction, the recruiting's going in the right direction. Everything since the spring, since we started doing this show, I'm not saying that we're the bad luck, but ever since we've started this show, everything has trended the other way for the University of Notre Dame. We had a little egg on the face. People had said, you guys are too tough. You don't know what you're talking about. I had people sending me 40 times of the receivers. Well, send me all the 40 times you want. You put up 14 points and you have converted 5 times on third down. So people, make it make sense. There's gaping issues here on the offensive side of the ball. Whether you want to believe that or not, when Notre Dame plays a real competent offense, which I'm not saying that's Purdue, I think they're going to come out and they're going to play smash mouth football and run the ball down your throat, or at least try to, and throw it when they need to. If that's going to be something that's going to happen, you got to fit the run really well, because I think Graham Harrell's going to have a whole bunch of tricks up his sleeve. So I think Graham Harrell is going to get really creative on the offensive side of the ball, and Al Golden, you better strap in. And at that point, you just lost to a MAC team. You're going down the road to a Big Ten school that's going to have better players. No offense to Northern Illinois, Purdue should have better players, being in the 1A conference of college football. But if I don't care what you have to do on the offensive side of the ball, it would just be better if you're going to run it 30 times, 35 times for 7 yards a clip. If that's what the identity of the offense is going to be for the University of Notre Dame, then so be it. But win games. Don't lose to MAC schools. Like, what are we doing here? Marshall, the Ohio State loss, I count that as a bad loss. Not enough guys on the field. Now Northern Illinois, on the road, at Purdue. Not the offense is looking putrid at this point. Can't convert on third down. It's not in a good place. It's not trending in the right direction. The recruiting trending in the other direction as well. You went from the number 1 recruiting class, which we already told you, if you listen to the shows in the springtime, that was not going to last. But you got to go get Notre Dame guys. And has Bo Collins flashed? Yeah, he's flashed. But we need a receiver to take over the game and do the little things right. Like the push in the back at Texas A&M, that could have cost Notre Dame the game. I don't care what anybody says. If they call a 15-yard personal foul there, that's a huge problem. The push in the back is a huge problem. I don't like that. I don't care if the guy was talking smack or not. To push the guy in the back for no apparent reason, it's just not conducive, for the culture at Notre Dame, and that's something that you don't and that's on tape for NFL GMs to see. Because I would say they'll probably watch a handful of Notre Dame games, and if you're trying to go to the league and try to get drafted, they don't like that stuff. But you never know, it is the NFL, so who knows? Maybe I'm just, full of crap, but Riley Leonard got outpassed by a MAC quarterback. And, Northern Illinois outgained you by 100 yards a pair of offense, so of total yards. So, going forward, Marcus has got to get this figured out. You beat Northern Illinois in the first down count. And then at the end of the game, trying to kick the field goal, what was it, a 62-yard field goal? At that juncture, I think your odds would have been better just to try to throw a Hail Mary, or could Riley get it there? That's the other thing that comes into play here. I didn't like trying to kick the field goal. I think you would have been better off to let one of the receivers try to make a play. It probably would have been a better result than what the hell that was, because it got stuffed. It's almost it's tough. All the Notre Dame fans had their head in the sand all offseason when me and Carter were up here. We were against the grain and said, hey, you can't bring in all these transfer portal kids and expect the offense to run as a cohesive unit when your number one receiver didn't practice in the spring, but he watched it. How is that working out? But he watched practice. Okay, great. Riley Leonard took mental reps. Well, the mental reps, 20 completions for 163 yards, mental reps. And I hate ripping on the kid, but, when you're making $1 million, you're making $1.2 million to play college football now. It's open season, and a MAC quarterback completed 10 less balls than you did and threw for. I mean, I get it. They had a couple of big plays, but you got out big played by Northern Illinois. Let's put this in perspective. And Bo Collins, 5 catches for 45 yards. At whatever they, it's. I hate to say it is what it is, but realistically at this point, and let's talk about Jeremiah Love only having 11 touches of the football. He had as many touches of the football in the run game as the quarterback. And you wonder why you only put up 14 points. At this point, you might as well just strap it up and run triple option, belly and veer. Realistically, Riley spread the ball around, but if you go down, Greathouse 5 for 41, Mitchell 3 for 32, Evans 2 for 26. I don't know. Do you trot Tyler Buckner out there? I don't know. It's not trending in the right direction. I know that much. I don't have all the answers, and I don't try to be the quarterback whisperer. It's not my thing, but reading that stat line and watching that game was telling to me. And if they start slow against Purdue, do not be shocked if Marcus makes the change. I don't know what that does for Riley Leonard going forward, but if I'm the NIL people, I think there's too much pressure to play him for Marcus to make the change. And I almost feel like Marcus will just let it he might let it just crash and burn and say, "This is what it is, guys. This is what it is." So, with that being said, if you like this content, please hit the like and subscribe button to help us get kicked up in the algorithm. And also, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, if we hit 1,000 subscribers before the USC game, Carter is going to give away 2 tickets. And he's also got some other Notre Dame stuff that he's looking to give away for subscribers. I think we're doing the other items that he has at 500, and then the tickets will be at 1,000. So if you can hit the like and subscribe button, and also if you're ever watching, you catch a show on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and interact with the show, because we do like taking questions. And I believe we're going to be back tomorrow at 7:30, and then we're going to go Saturday at 1:45, I believe, because the Notre Dame kick is at 3:30. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a good rest of the night.